I met a gypsy.
When it happened at that point, like I got so lucky, like that the bike, when I hit and I basically was going about 65 feet probably, doing at least 30 miles an hour, 35 miles an hour, and just dead stop. So like the compression that my body took was pretty heavy, and like, you know, like I know it could have been way worse, like looking back on it now. You know, like when I hit, and like now that it was pretty much slow motion in my head, but when I hit, the bike literally was 6 inches from me. Like if that thing would have smoked
you, bro.
Yeah, if that thing would have smoked me in my back, like we would have, you know, we might not be here telling this story. So I'm super thankful it wasn't worse. Like when I got up at first, I tried to get up and I knew right away, I was like, I for sure thought I did both my feet, you know, and then kind of got off to the side, and first thing I did is it hurt, but just ripped my boots off because I did not want that thing to swell up, and then be even more pain getting it off later. So anyways, get down there and go through the whole ambulance thing. They get me in the ambulance, and then basically they said that they're taking me to Ipswich Hospital, and you know, I'm with a bunch of Americans at that point, like my crew, none of us knew what the hell we were doing, you know, and I get there, and you know, at that point, then it starts just like, first thing I said when I'm getting loaded in the ambulance, I told Kenny, the owner of Fast House, I'm like, Kenny, please just take my phone, and you got to get a hold of Steve and tell him what had happened, just to try to figure out a game plan, basically. So, you know, I basically, at that point, between Red Bull, they had got a hold of Ben, that Ben runs the Red Bull stuff down here. So, he basically got on the phone, and right away he drove straight from the Gold Coast to Ipswich and went to the hospital and was like, you got to get out of here right now. Like, you cannot, like, they are not touching you. There's no way. And like, and at that point I didn't know. I was in so much pain. I was just like,
And that, to be fair too, like that hospital is not designed for like crazy shit. You know what I mean? That's like a rural hospital.
For sure.
That's like designed to be for, you know, the fucking first point of call, and then you go to like a legit hospital, because they're like super close to a capital city.
Yeah. So, and I mean, at that point they were worried. They felt up my spine and stuff, and they were worried about, you know, the compression that I took on my back as well. And so they basically, you know, they got me there, and I was in so much pain. Like they didn't really like, it was the whole like timing of it, like it kind of all blends together for me, because I was in, so like and I honestly, I sound like I feel like a pussy saying it, because I know it could be so much worse, and I know how many like these, like, I mean, I've dealt with it a bunch. I've had 4 ACLs, compounded femur and like shit, and like seeing the femur out of my skin, like it was traumatic. But dude, that was nowhere near the pain of the pressure that was in my foot. Like, it was crazy. Instantly, my foot just felt like it was burning, and it felt like there was so much pressure inside of it. It wasn't that swollen, but it just felt like there was so much pressure inside of it. Like, I felt like I could just touch it and it'd pop. And so I get there, and like they start just running all these scans and doing everything, trying to figure it out. And to be honest with you, I'm not even sure that I got CT scans on my back or anything before they transferred me, and Ben got me transferred out of there. So I mean, I was in there, and dude, it was gnarly. There was like, I remember Ben got there the first night, and there's this lady, I don't know what she was on, all iced out or something, but running through there saying she was going to stab everyone and kill everyone. And like, dude, it was like real deal, you know?
Fuck it.
So, at that point I'm like, okay, like
cocaine's a hell of a drug.
So, so it was kind of gnarly. And then basically they kept coming in, and they kept just like, I didn't really have anyone at that point, like, you know, obviously no family with me or anything. And like, and to a point, like, you know, Kenny and those guys, like, it's also their event. Like, they can't, like,
well, there was so much shit going on with like the event itself that it's like the timing of this is terrible.
It was terrible. It was the first day we got there. We were riding the track Tuesday, and the event started Friday, and they still had so much work to do by Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, you know what I mean?
And then the other thing is there's no cell reception out there.
Nothing.
So it's not even like you kind of, if you're at that event, you're so like, you're gone from communication.
Yeah, and I know, like, you know, like Kenny and those guys, they had a lot of shit they had to do. Like, and I would not expect them to be like, oh, we just fuck the event because our boy got hurt. Like that's their event and that's their job, what they're doing, you know? So it was just being there by myself for a minute, and it was just like, dude, the nurses just kept coming in. I was in so much pain. Like I could never get in front of it, you know? I could never get to like myself settled and comfortable and then stay ahead of it. They just kept pumping me with so much shit, dude. And like got to the point where I'm like I was like calling for the nurses, and I like hit the button and the nurses wouldn't come, and I'm like, excuse me, and I'm like literally falling back, laying in the bed, staring at the ceiling, like, and like I said, I almost feel like a pussy saying this, like, or being like this, because I know it could be so much worse, but like at
the end of the day though, like
me
it fucking
physically
sucks.
Like I had never endured that much pain to this point.
That's crazy.
Which is crazy to me because I'm like, whatever.
You've had worse injuries on paper.
On paper, exactly. So I'm like sitting there, dude, and I'm like staring into the ceiling, and I'm like, dude, it's like tunneling in, you know? And at that point, So
were you on like tons of morphine or something?
Morphine, fentanyl, like they were giving me everything they possibly could, and it was still hurting. Nothing. Like they were giving me tablets, like, fuck, dude, it was so gnarly. They basically got to the point where I was laying there, and I'm like, dude, I need. At that point, I feel like I just needed someone that I knew next to me that I could just be like, okay, like just talk through. I was just literally sitting there by myself trying to get these nurses to help me, and you know what I mean? And so finally, like I leaned forward, and the dude tells me like, oh, hey, sit back down. You can't move your back or your neck, because I still was in a neck thing. And I'm like, well, dude, I've hit the button 15 minutes ago. I've been saying, excuse me. You guys keep walking by. No one's looking at me. I keep having, and at that point, there was this older nurse and I vaguely remember it. It's like I said, it was all blur, but she kept coming in, and she's like I could hear the machines behind me, like the flatlining almost, you know, like beep, like I wasn't breathing. Like I would get below that point, and like, dude, the lady would come in, and she's like, Tyler, like you got to breathe. And I'm like, at that point, I'm like, well, seriously, like I've been trying to get somebody here. Like, can you please just send one of my friends that's in the waiting room to be here?
So they wouldn't let anyone in.
At that point, they weren't letting anyone in. I'm like, just send one of my friends in here, because they were all waiting for me, but they're outside, you know? It was just like a total nightmare, dude. Yeah. So so I'm like, you just send one of my friends in to at least, so I have something to talk to. Like I'm sitting here, you guys are pumping me with everything you can, and I'm in so much pain I can't get in front of it, but I don't have anyone to talk to. I'm literally like, it's to the point I'm forgetting to breathe. Yeah. You know what I mean? And finally, like they're like, okay, like finally went out there and got Kenny at that point. Kenny came in, and it was like, okay, like then I had someone to like, like,
just you know, someone like, that kind of calm you down.
And at that point, like I was like hyperventilating, like I couldn't. It was crazy, like I couldn't. Like I said, I feel like a pussy talking about it like that, but it's like it was mind blowing. Like I couldn't, like I was so lightheaded and feeling like I was gonna pass out that I couldn't breathe. Like it was so gnarly.